But we begin with former Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge, who's the co-chair of the McCain campaign. Do you believe, sir, Governor Ridge, that Barack Obama is a socialist? And I mean in the term we grew up with what it means. It means have the government run the economy. Do you believe he's one of those guys?
I think he's going down that path. I don't think, I think if you have a voting record that is more liberal than the only self-proclaimed socialist in the United States Senate, that's Bernie Sanders, there's a suggestion that if your vice president thinks that paying higher taxes is patriotic, when you as a presidential candidate have never voted voted against a tax increase, and you couple that with the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader who all embrace more taxes, you get more government, more taxes, and one could say that you're moving down that path, Chris.
Do you think it's useful to the American debate for this election to call one person on the other side a word which most Americans hold in disrepute? Do you believe he's an enemy of free enterprise? Do you believe he's a man who believes in state control of the economy? That's what a socialist is. Do you believe he is such a person or not?
Well, I believe he's moving down that path.
That's not what your candidate is saying. Well, your candidates are saying he is a socialist.
Well, I think you can derive from some of the comments he's made with regard to taxes, with regard to small businesses, with regard to sharing the wealth, redistributing the wealth. And he's the first presidential candidate, I think, Chris, that has made a statement that limits the financial and personal aspirations of people, i.e., if you earn more than $250,000, we're going to tax you more.
But, Governor, we have a progressive tax system. We've had it since the 1910s. Which means that you pay according to your ability. It's a progressive tax system. Right. We don't have a straight line 10%. Obviously, people in the higher brackets pay a lot more percentage-wise than people in the lower brackets on the theory that they can live well and still pay higher taxes.
Yeah, and that's the basis of the progressive tax system. And
is there something wrong with that? Okay. Is your party now saying there's something wrong with that? That someone who makes $250 a year should pay a higher rate than somebody who makes $25 a year?
They're already paying higher rates.
Is there something wrong with that?
No, they're saying, but to say now in the midst of this campaign, suddenly a presidential candidate have set a ceiling on the financial or the personal aspirations of people. This Joel the plumber may be taken out of proportion.
You think he's putting a ceiling on the aspirations of any American, given the fact where he came from? Barack Obama came from squat. Look where he is today.
He came from the same place.
He obviously believes in aspirations. He obviously believes in aspirations.
But for him to stand up in front of a crowd, Chris, look, politics we're on hardball, right? But to stand up in front of a crowd of thousands of people, and he is a celebrity, he does attract big crowds, so does John McCain, by the way, and say, how many people in here make $250,000? Doesn't sound to me like he's appealing to the better side of the nature. Sounds to me like he's appealing to the darker side.
It sounds to me like he's trying to pay for the government's costs.
Well, he needs to find some way to pay for another $1 trillion worth of programs.
By the way, let me ask you about your foreign policy. We have a very extensive, some would argue, adventurous foreign policy. We're spending tons of money, $3 billion a week on our exploits in Iraq right now. We are spending $810 billion on this latest bailout. What I wonder is about the conflict between Republicans who support these huge outlays of federal money and at the same time don't want to pay for the damn stuff. You cannot claim to be a free enterprise, anti-government guy when you support the biggest government we've ever had. Sarah Palin supports all the spending I've just described, foreign and domestic, and then says, oh, we shouldn't pay the taxes. Well, somebody's got to pay them.
Well, somebody's got to pay them. But, and the American people end up, the government has...
A guy making $250 a year has to begin to start paying it, doesn't he? Somebody's got to pay it. Why don't we only make people who make $10 million a year pay taxes?
No, I'm just talking about the approach that he's taken, Chris.
You think it's socialist to say somebody makes $250?
And you know the answer is no.
Okay, do you believe a guy who says a person who makes $250 or $250,000 a year in net taxes, in net income, do you believe that person shouldn't be taxed appropriately?
He is taxed appropriately now.
Okay.
He's the highest tax bracket going.
Let me take a look at something.
He's also saying capital gains, dividends down the path, and there's no.
Can I bring in my big brother? I'm having a fight with the governor I respect, so let's bring in my big brother. His name is General Colin Powell.
All right.
Here's what he is everybody's big brother. Here he is right now on Meet the Press.
In the case of Mr. McCain, I found that he was a little unsure as to how to deal with the economic problems that we were having. And almost every day there was a different approach to the problem, and that concerned me. It's got the sensing that he didn't have a complete grasp of the economic problems that we had.
Well, you want to respond to that? Your candidate, the other guy you're calling a socialist, what are you calling your guy? He's unclear. He says, I don't understand economics. I mean, he's made a few amazing sort of full-mooner comments that you're not used to in politics. Nobody says they don't understand economics who's running for president of the United States, but he did. And we know he was using overstatement. He obviously understands it better than most people.
Of course he did.
Why is he saying?
Understands that lower taxes, reduce federal spending, and restraining the growth of government is one of the best things we can do.
Okay, how about Penn State? Can we agree on something? Penn State this week. What do you think, huh?
Well, obviously, Penn State, Nittany Lions triumph over the Buckeyes.
Well, and amazing. That's next week. This week, they were really good against Michigan. Let's take a look at this. Peggy Noonan. She's somebody I know we all respect here. In her latest comment ran this Saturday. By the way, it's one reason to read the Wall Street Journal on Saturday. She said, quote, "We have seen Mrs. Palin," that's the governor of Alaska, "on the national stage now for 7 weeks. And there is little sign that she has the tools, the equipment, the knowledge, or the philosophical grounding one hopes for and expects in the holder of high office in the past 2 weeks. She has spent her time throwing out tinny lines to crowds she doesn't really understand. This is not a leader. This is a follower. In the end, the Palin candidacy is a symptom and expression of a new vulgarization of American politics. It's not good, not for conservatism and not for the country. And yes, it is a mark against John McCain, against his judgment and idealism." Miss Peggy Noonan, one of the best speechwriters in the world, who wrote all of Reagan's speeches, or a lot of the good ones, and she believes that Sarah Palin is not up to the job. By the way, Governor Powell said, I thought something very succinct the other day. He said, she's not ready to be president, therefore she shouldn't be vice president, because that's the job of a vice president. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I was interested in General Powell's endorsement. Some people say they were surprised. I thought it was counterintuitive. I mean, the fact that the man had is so battle-tested, military, diplomatic, and foreign affairs, for him to be supporting someone who was not tested militarily, diplomatic, and foreign affairs isn't not only surprising, it's absolutely counterintuitive. So, again, I think if you ask the troops on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan who they prefer to have as their commander-in-chief,
General Powell,
I bet you they would say John McCain.
They might get him as Secretary of Defense.
I suspect they'd probably have John McCain.
Maybe if they vote for one guy, they'll get him for Secretary of Defense. Who knows? Or you with the other guy, right? So you might be the candidate for the
on the ground. I think would support
a man of your social views is still appropriate for Defense Secretary in the Republican administration. By the way, you have been a great running mate. You're not so tough nuts here. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor Tom Ridge, a great guy. Thank you.